Hello, I got this article that I've read called Bitcoin has no intrinsic value and will never be a threat to fiat currency. It's a very long article. I will not be going over the entire piece. A few different paragraphs that I think are important. And it says here, money game. I cannot disagree more that this is a game, but I will be disagreeing on many fronts within this. Anyway, let's go on to a few key points, and let's start off within this paragraph here. The link for this article will be in the more information box. You see here a picture of a Zimbabwean dollar. They're going to be pumping up fiat currency pretty large, and anyway, let me just go over this. The crazy price swings of the digital currency Bitcoins, which has an ultimately finite supply and is distributed via cryptology with no central bank-like user, has prompted numerous discussions about whether the currency could become an important economic entity that actually a viable alternative to, say, the US dollar. There's also a lot of discussion about whether the currency is in a bubble, though in a way that's a less interesting debate. So that's what this is basically going on. Now, the crazy price swings. I had no idea that the big crash was due to hacking. I figured from the start that moves like this were in play only because of the fact that there is, to me, not that large of liquidity, and then you have a bid-ask system that can really get out of hand. When you only have a few orders and a lot of people wanting to sell, then that's just going to get out of hand to the point of really going under $1. Depending on how bad people want to get out. But that's neither here nor there as far as this video is concerned. The real economic question is whether Bitcoin could be a real thing, an important economic function. And here's one thing right here. I have a problem with here's the problem. And the here's the problem says fiat currency has intrinsic value. Bitcoin doesn't. Now, I do agree that Bitcoin doesn't have intrinsic value. In fact, I put it on a negative equity scale only because there's a lot of computer work to mine what could be done just by writing the numbers in originally. You're just not even doing it anyway, if you know what I mean. But fiat currency, to me, does not have any intrinsic value. I'm going to reference the tulip bulb bubble of about 4 or so century ago, where these tulip bulbs were used as currency, and they got out of hand for what people were actually giving for these, going way overvalued. And it pretty much had no intrinsic value, but it still kind of did. And fiat currency, to me, has no intrinsic value. Old fiat currencies, or old debasements, was when you had silver coins that were normally, say, sterling at 92.5% silver, and then they started to make like 25% silver. Well, that's still got value, just not as much, or a quarter of the value kind of deal. No, this is absolutely 100% of the value is gone kind of deal, or 0% of it exists. That's how bad, to me, in my opinion, it is. But there's a lot of data to back that up. Anyway, there's a big popular meme going around that fiat currencies like the dollar, pound, yen, and euro have no intrinsic value, and they're only accepted because they're accepted. And at some point, people will see through the illusion of the value of paper money and realize that wealth lies somewhere else. Usually, this argument is made by gold bugs. I want to basically argue the point that you say here it's only accepted because they're accepted, and I say because they are forced to be accepted, as well as the common non-knowledge that fiat currencies are guaranteed to cause debt, the society that's only going to keep on getting destructive and worse over time. I think that if people genuinely knew what the information on how it was to be played, that it would be a very quick exit out of the fiat currency. Again, that is my opinion. Moving on, but fiat currencies have tremendous intrinsic value because governments say they do. That's why they're called fiat currencies. They have value by government fiat. Okay, that's just because a government says something is some way doesn't make it true. For example, if you take something like an egg and the government says that if you throw it against the tree, it will not smash. And then you throw it at the tree and it smashes. Just because they say something doesn't mean it's true, whereas it's always going to be science that will tell you real way of the way the world works, basically. Anyway, And moving on, that might be true but annoying, but the fact of the matter is that we live in a world of laws where governments have armies and can imprison you if you don't pay taxes. So there's the fear tactics here, and every transaction that you do is taxed in some way, meaning that to operate in any practical matter in this world means transacting in US dollars. World of laws. So what happens if we had a law that no matter what the situation was, if it was a green light and you were a driver, that you had to go no matter what? Even if there was a car that was running a red light, a human was running a red light, you had to still keep going. And it's penalty by law if you do not. Now, that sounds crazy. Well, how crazy is having a fiat tender law, a legal tender law, that guarantees debt via simple mathematics, because only central bankers are permitted to mine fiat currency, thus with an interest payments and interest payments and interest charge, that a lot of people are in debt, a lot of people are on food stamps, and if you look at the world current affairs, everything is scientifically playing out as it should be within a fiat currency. So the US dollar isn't just important because other people think it is. The US dollar is important because it is the world's strongest entity. Again, I'm going to disagree with you. Now, scientifically, I do not know what the strongest entity is, but I would like to make a case that possibly it might be the human's ability to be able to work very well in mass, as far as really through thought and through action, and to be able to solve problems magnificently. At least when you compare us to other animals, it's 100,000 times fold better than any other animal, obviously. So, with the full force of the U.S. Army and the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, and local authorities with gun demands that you pay them in the U.S. dollars, that's not faith, that's the law. Sorry. Again, at some point, when laws are played out that hurt the society, other humans, other animals, and plant life within it, then at some point, when do you finally say, you know what, this law is a destructive, a poisonous kind of law, we got to make new ones. Something to think about. Even outside of the requirement to pay taxes in US dollars, the Fed system, I'm going to go Federal Reserve System. Creature from Jekyll Island talks about this. 3 different words. Word federal. Federal is a word that, well, I guess the national law enforcement arm of the U.S. government, or any government for that matter, of its current level. But it's not, obviously. It's a private bank. Reserve, like they actually are holding something. And they're obviously not holding real value scientifically, and system, like they got a methodology way of and using processes over situations to do things, and it's just a nice fancy little name, and I like the way how that was put. Anyway, the Fed has established the dollar as the unit of currency for banking in the United States. So if you want to be plugged into the banking system at all, which is a requirement for virtually all individuals, you have to use US dollars. See, this is a line, this is a paragraph basically stating this is your enslavement right here. Now, who were the Federal Reserve System? Well, this started over 100 years ago by a select few individuals on this planet. Why can't select few individuals be 20 or 2 million or whomever go out and start what they want and let the free market decide for itself? Plain and simple. And so yeah, this to me is really, really bad. And so instantly, anyone who says US dollar is backed by faith or an illusion has no concept of the sheer force behind the currency. Now, I'm kind of wondering if the author has any concept to debt being guaranteed, because only central bankers are allowed to mine it. They charge interest. Thus, if you mine your own fiat debt notes, it's imprisonment, yada, yada, yada. My guess is no. And if it is yes, I don't know what else to say, but wow. That's evil. Anyway, when we move on, let's just read this last little bit that is interesting enough. And this, I'm going to read 2 more paragraphs. I haven't read the whole thing. Oh my, I just read this now for the first time. We should also take a moment to praise what an amazing invention fiat currency as we know it is. Is this some sort of joke article? Seriously. Amazing invention. Oh my, what's the success rate? Win-loss record, if you will, of fiat currencies historically. It has never survived the test of time. It's like saying Ryan Leaf is an amazing NFL football quarterback. If you don't know who Ryan Leaf is, and I hope most of you do not, because it's pretty much nonsense information for most people, he was one of the worst players ever to play the game, especially for somebody who had hype to be good. Anyway, we've lived through extraordinary economic times in recent years with monetary policy acrobatics that are virtually unprecedented, and a dollar will more or less buy you the same amount of real stuff, beer, rent, gas, etc., that it did before all of this. Yes, there's slow inflation over time, but that's mostly matched by increases in salaries, so it doesn't make a big deal. I mean, again, stagflation. This is what this is getting to the point. It's bad. It is bad. Salaries have pretty much barely increased over the last 15, 20 years. Have you been into a grocery store? Have you seen the price of gas over 20 years? Yes, I gotta shake my head again. Final one, and so paper currency backed by government is amazingly stable, useful, and even terrible times still gets used. Bitcoin, sadly, has none of that going for it. And what's interesting is all other previous fiat currencies that survived 5 years survived 2 or 3 years 100% of the time as well. With that being said, the US fiat currency and the world ones have pretty much set a record for length of duration. Don't quote me on that because I don't know what the longest is, but generally speaking, it does not last that long. To say that it's amazingly stable is an amazing lie for... Well, if it was amazingly stable, remember when gas prices were 10 cents a liter? Well, they'd still be around 10 cents a liter today. Now, would not be that'd be true, yes. Take care. By the way, this was a long video, but this is bad, how... I just told people don't believe this lies, aren't able to debunk it. So this is, to me, so easy. This is like first grade debunking MSM lies, in my opinion. So thank you for watching. Take care.